Welcome to the Geo Show, another episode of the Geo Show, second episode on TV. We got a pretty good episode, I think, going on. We're going to try a new segment here called Player to Watch. So we're going to do some Columbus trivia. It's going to be a little different since Taryn's gone. Brandon's joining me. So, Brandon, say what's up.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be here.
All righty. And then second segment, we're going to do a Columbus High School basketball, some High Plains basketball. We got to check them out over the weekend. And then we're going to do a little fun segment at the end. So, I don't know. I think we got a pretty good episode lined up, so it should be good. To start off, we're doing a new segment, like I said, called Player to Watch. This week's Player to Watch is going to be number 22, Quinn Madison for Lakeview. Quinn Madison, the Vikings are getting ready to face Centura. Centura's 1-3. The Vikings are 0-4. Just looking at some of the stats for Quinn Madison, 2-point field goal percentage 36%, field goal percentage 42%, and 3-point field goal percentage 66%. Which is pretty good. He's above the team average on everything, 34, 30%, and 23% for the team. And then rebounds, he's got 20 on the season. But Coach Bryce Roth says Madison's coming off his best game of the year against Wayne High School, and they ended up losing that game too. But he's recovering from a knee injury, and he didn't get to play this last football season. We got to cover a lot of their games. But I got a chance to talk to him at practice this week and ask him a little bit about that knee injury and how the season's going. So here's what he had to say about that.
The knee, it's strong. I'm glad the way it is, but I couldn't be here today without my teammates helping me get through the recovery and pushing me to realize that I can do a lot with my knee and push it further.
So now that he is back, he's going to be. It should be a good game this weekend. They're taking on Centura. Centura, like I said, is 1-3. The Lakeview boys are 0-4, but it's a home game, and it's always exciting to get it home. It's definitely a winnable game. Just kind of look at some of their other games. They lost their first one, Crete, 48-29, but then they came back against Boone Central Newman Grove, and I thought this was a big marker for them. So Quinn Madison, he's going to need to be a big key in that in the success of that program as they move forward this season. And they got some other good players too, but Quinn Madison, this week's Player to Watch, so be sure to check him out. And I don't know, it should be a fun game. You looking forward to this Lakeview game coming up?
I absolutely am. You're looking back at the two of the losses they've had are against Aurora and Crete, and those are teams that are undefeated 4-0. So the only really disappointing loss, I guess you would say, for the Vikings is that last game against Wayne, because that was a team that was very beatable, 1-4. But they have the chance against Centura, also a 1-3 team, coming in to get potentially that first win, and we'd be more than happy on New Channel Nebraska to be the ones broadcasting it when Coach Roth potentially gets his first win at the helm for Lakeview.
Well, hopefully we can check that out. And, yeah, I know I'm excited. It'd be really fun to maybe just potentially get to see that first win and see the team react, see Coach Bryce Roth get his first win as a Lakeview Viking. And the girls as well, they're going to have a little bit of a tougher matchup, just kind of pulling up their schedule quick. We're not going to get too deep into this because some of this is going to run at a later date than when the game is covered, but the Lakeview girls are taking out Centura. Centura is 3-1. The Lakeview girls are 1-3, so that's going to be a little bit of a tougher matchup for them. Centura girls, they don't look too bad this season. Lakeview girls had that tough loss, double overtime to Aurora a little bit earlier this season. This is another thing, we really haven't had a chance to go too far into analyzing the Lakeview girls, and we haven't seen Centura yet. So any thoughts, I guess, going into that game?
Well, obviously, yeah, just so happens the schedule-wise, Lakeview was the third one on the totem pole, but, going off of what they had last year, you have Kayla Shrunk, the volleyball phenom, who's also very good at basketball. She's a big part of that Lady Vikings team, and, they're going to be going inside to her and expecting her to do some big things if they want to get that win against Centura, goes without saying. Shrunk's going to have a big game for the Vikings to get any sort of result.
Yeah, so it should be a fun game. I'm looking exciting. Vikings taking on the Centurions. So it should be a fun matchup. That's going to be, I believe, on 48.1, potentially 48.2. We're not sure what the lineup's going to be with those. Columbus High and Norfolk could potentially be on 48.2. So we'll see what the lineup for that is. I want to do some trivia quick. It's going to be a little different. Taryn's not with us today, so it's going to be kind of a if you don't get it right, then I win type situation.
Mano y mano.
Mano y mano. Last week we talked about Julian Meyer. Okay, Julian Meyer has passed away now, but he was the creator of the City of Power and Progress slogan. So I just want to kind of read. I pulled his bio up from the McCown Funeral Home here in Columbus. He's actually from Columbus. Dr. Julian E. Meyer. He grew up in Columbus, received his BA from Harvard University, and his postgraduate from the University of Missouri. Served in the U.S. Army from 43 to 46 during World War II. And and was a businessman here in Columbus, was a lifetime member of the Knights of Columbus and the Rotary Club, and the Elks Club. So I don't know. You asked me about it last week, so I figured I'd dig a little something up.
No, I appreciate that. A very well-decorated man of Columbus, to say the least. And he deserves recognition on the Geo Show for being in the trivia. That's a high honor, maybe higher than anything he's had.
Well, I don't know about I don't know about that. I'm sure his family doesn't think that either. So we'll see. Maybe they'll call in, and hopefully they appreciate that. So, all right. So 2 questions. We got 2 questions today. So eventually we could tie if you get both of these wrong, which
high possibility that does happen.
But the questions are pretty difficult though. So we're gonna kind of I'm modifying at least the first one. Okay. So the first question is. Well, at least I got these from the chamber, from Cassie and Casey Baylett. So thank you to those guys for sending those over, guy and girl. Who was the first business in Columbus? Okay, that's the question. But that's first business ever in Columbus. Oh. But I'm gonna change it up a little bit so that it's what is the first. I'm gonna say type of business in Columbus. So I'm gonna tell you it is some kind of mill.
Okay.
But you have to guess what kind of mill it is, okay? It was established in 1857, the fall of 1857. I looked it up, actually, and it's in August. I think it was August 1st, 1857. What kind of mill was originally established in Columbus, 1857? I'll give you 3 guesses. It's going to be, you won't know the full title, so you just got to get part of it. Okay. You could very well get this, though, I think.
Okay. Well, it comes from Casey Baylett and Cassie Jeffries, and I happen to cover the Hall of Fame banquet. So I'm hoping if this has something to do with that, I believe I remember a lady actually having something to do with a textile mill. I could very well be wrong.
So textile mill is your first guess.
That's my first guess. The only other mill I know is a lumber mill. And if it's not either of those two, I'm out of luck.
It's neither of those two.
Well, then just scratch me off then for this one. I don't have it.
I think you'll recognize this one. It's a sawmill. That's Radney, Brandon's dog, attacking our producer in the background. Aaron needs to get to work.
What did he do?
That's a nice job. Right there comes Radney.
Yeah, good job.
He's hanging out. We'll show Radney later in the second segment. Ricky's Saw and Grist Mill, established August 1st, 1857. I actually looked up a little bit on this, too, because I felt bad because I didn't look anything up last time. So John Rickley was authorized to build the sawmill in not less than 32 horsepower, as stated in the contract. The mill was to be completed within a year. The equipment for the mill was hauled by ox teams from Omaha. This was probably the first consignment of heavy freight to reach Columbus. The mill was opened August 1st, 1857, and shortly thereafter, frame structures began to make their appearance in the new town. So
there you go.
Essentially kind of the start of Columbus. So it was kind of an interesting little tidbit. But I guess, did you learn something?
I did. The genesis of the great town of Columbus is a sawmill.
It's something, too.
So that's a
cool little deal.
Tell my family.
All right. And then the next question, we're going to make this quick, so we got to go to break here. What was the original name? I'll give you one guess. It's going to be a tough one, too. What was the original name of First Nebraska Bank when it opened June 1st, 1982? And I'll tell you what. It has the words National Bank in it, but the first part, I'm going to give you a lead here, is something that we use quite a bit news-wise, and it's a familiar phrase with the Columbus News team.
Oh, God.
The first two, you're going to kick yourself after you hear this. So the last two, I'll give you this. It's 2 words, and then it's National Bank.
Something National Bank. Okay. And something a news person uses.
That we use here in Columbus News team.
We use computers. We use microphones.
the two words to describe this area.
Platte Valley
National Bank's correct. That's what it is.
I was thinking too deep, like we used it as a tool as reporter. Okay. Hey.
You got it. Platte Valley. You got one though.
Platte Valley National Bank.
I gave you a lead, but I wouldn't have been able to guess that one either.
It would have been game over for
me. All right, so we tied. We're tied going into break. All right, well, we'll be right back after this. Brandon and I are tied, so we, I don't know, dual match afterwards.
Why not?
Dual match. It is what it is. We're going to talk some Columbus High boys basketball right after this, what they need to do to move forward with their season and potentially be successful. And I'm also going to go over some of the current list of signees for local high school athletes. So we'll be right back after this here on the Geo Show, News Channel Nebraska, Columbus News Team.
I'm Dee Hansen. I'm the marketing director, and we would like to introduce you to Bank of the Valley. Community-minded, family-centered, measurable relationships. When it comes to your business, agriculture, and personal banking needs, trust Bank of the Valley.
We're obviously a locally owned bank, but we're also a bank that's very involved.
The most important thing is when you walk in the front door, everybody knows your first name. We are small town banking with all the modern conveniences.
Bank of the Valley in Bellwood, David City, Platte Center, and their brand new location in Columbus.
Heaven's Best Carpet Cleaning.
Heaven's Best Carpet Cleaning stands above the competition with our unique low-moisture cleaning system. Your carpet and upholstery will look great and be dry in 1 hour.
Cleaner carpet and upholstery.
Wake up in your first home. Wake up in a home you've made a bit bigger. Wake up in a home with a new address. Wake up in a home that doesn't even have an address. As your life evolves, your dream home evolves too, and protecting it takes committed support. At American Family Insurance, we support your dreams.
In Columbus, see American Family Agent Roger Iwanski.
A&J Guns is truly your tactical connection. From accessories like Magpul, Aimpoint, and Vortex to firearms, ammo, and suppressors, we can set you up with what you need. If we don't have it, we can get it. A&J Guns in downtown Columbus.
Columbus Community Hospital is leading the way in better technology for our patients. The Tournier Simplicity system is changing the lives of shoulder replacement patients across the country. Developed by a team including Columbus's own Dr. Ed Feringer, patients experience a bone-preserving procedure that is shorter and less invasive, meaning they get back to doing the things they love faster. To find out if Simplicity is right for you, go to www.columbushosp.org.
Ever wonder where those mysterious spots and stains come from? Call your local Heaven's Best carpet and upholstery cleaning technician. You can enjoy life, and we'll clean it up.
Heaven's Best Carpet Cleaning. The cleanest carpet you'll ever see.
Heaven's Best. You've tried the rest, now try the best. Call George at 402-564-9060 or on the web at columbusne.heavensbest.com.
And welcome back to the GO Show. We're going to talk a little bit of Columbus High boys basketball. At least we'll get into touch briefly on the girls. But before we do that, I want to go over some of the signees and kind of just do a little update about who's going where and what's going on with our Columbus athletes. So I'm going to pull up the graphic right here. Go ahead and pull that up. And all right, take a look at here. So we got Alyssa Curry and Alyssa Downs. They were the original signees. They're Alyssa Curry from CHS going to Nebraska Wesleyan for softball. Alyssa Downs going to University of Sioux Falls for track and pole vault. Cassidy Durkup's going to the University of Nebraska Kearney for track and triple jump. She from CHS. Miles Putnam from SCOTUS going to UNK to play a little baseball. I got my significant others from Kearney, so lopes up, I suppose. Kayla Shrunk from Lakeview High School is going to go play volleyball at Hastings College. One of the better players from volleyball to, I guess, ever go through Lakeview. Megan Pieper going to Central Community College right up on the hill. Jordan Voigt going to Northeast Community College. And then Courtney Lobbins from SCOTUS also going to Northeast Community College. So a pretty good-looking list of athletes so far, I would say.
Yeah, in a good week or two, I guess you'd say, for LeBenz, Shrunk, and Pieper specifically, because they also made all-class honors for the volleyball that came out by the Omaha World Herald. I believe it was Shrunk got second team, and Pieper and LeBenz made first team. So, I mean, double kudos to those three athletes. I mean, everybody in the signings. It's great that you're seeing the athletes go on and play at the next level, something they enjoy, obviously, doing.
So I want to get into a little bit of Columbus High boys basketball. So it's the first season of, you want to call it the Jimmy Moats era. And they are currently sitting at 1-4. They're going to take on I believe 4-1 Norfolk team who is very good. They're coming off a great season last year. They had kind of a disappointment at the end there when they weren't able to make a run in the playoffs. They got kicked out pretty good. I think it was the first round, wasn't it?
Yeah, after going undefeated regular season. A little bit surprising.
So yeah, it was very interesting. Columbus High boys. I don't. I'd like to guess you talked to Coach Moat, so I'd like to get your initial thoughts on what you think. And did he really say anything? Maybe what do you think the future is of this program, at least for this immediate season?
Well, talking to him preseason, getting ready to go, he said, I wish we had more time to prepare. I'm trying to implement this new system, get these guys to buy in, which he says they have. It's not like they haven't bought into what he's doing, but you hope maybe there'll be a surprise or two. Maybe they'll start out better than expected, but it's kind of, what you would expect when you've got a group of younger guys with not a lot of returners and putting in a new system. They're at 1-3. He said the big thing, though, we need to work on rebounding. Doing a better job of rebounding and blocking out is a simple thing to fix. The other thing is, he said why we're currently at the record we are. We had a very tough schedule. You have Beatrice, you have some other teams that are very good in Class B. But he says there's one thing that's definitely for sure. It hasn't been because of a lack of effort, and that's something he's been preaching. They have Norfolk and Seward, depending when you're watching this, both 3-1 teams before the holiday tournament. And he said, those are two tough games. We could grab a win from that and get that momentum, though, going into 2015 or 2016, I guess, and carry that basically moving forward because it is still early on, and you never know. You catch fire late. I believe like your Discoverers team did when you played. You make a little playoff push.
My team was a little rough. We went on a little run there in mid-season. We beat Kearney and we beat Benson. And I don't want to reminisce too much about my season, but we went on a run. We beat a couple top-ranked teams, and then I ended up getting sick, and it wasn't like I was the whole piece to the team, but that starting five really was cohesive, and we did a really good job, and we just kind of fell downhill after having a couple pieces out there for a little bit. So hopefully that's not the case for them. Hopefully they can make a push late and figure things out. And that's the other thing, watching them at Beatrice, I was very impressed. First game of the year. Beatrice is a good team. Top of the Class B ranks. You could tell they were a very good team going into that game. They were fun to watch. They had a lot of good pieces together. But I thought Columbus High looked good. Now, Columbus High played them pretty tight outside of that first 90 seconds. You take that away and maybe a little bit of the fourth quarter in, and they potentially win the game if you take, if they're able to fix some pieces there. Then they played Elkhorn, who they beat, Lincoln Northeast, and then they played Northwest last night. But Northeast, they played pretty tight until the end. Hastings kind of whooped up on them a little bit, as I was talking to Coach Moats. They kind of got beat up. And then Northwest last night, they led for 3.5 quarters. And we'll be interested to see how this game coming up. Norfolk's going to be a tough matchup. They got the road game, but that should be on 48.2. That's not definite yet, but we'll look back and we'll get something going up on the website. It should be on 48.2. When we get back, we got to go take another break right now. We'll touch briefly on girls basketball and their matchup against Norfolk, but then we're going to talk a little High Plains and then a little Christmas talk too. So we'll be right back here. It's the GO Show. Brandon's joining me here again as usual, and we'll be back. News Channel Nebraska Columbus News Team right after this.
In Columbus, see your good neighbor State Farm agent Annette Alt for your insurance and financial needs.
Our economic future depends on tomorrow's skilled workforce. Dream it, do it. And Central Community College Columbus is here to help young adults find careers in advanced manufacturing and related businesses. Visit dreamitdoit.com for more information or tour the Central Community College Columbus campus.
Life is about doing those things we love. And when something happens, you risk that connection to those things. It's about the path you follow to recovery, to return to those things that bring a smile to your face. When it comes to physical, occupational, and speech therapy, rely on the experts who combine compassion with excellence in rehabilitative services. The path of personalized, comprehensive, and innovative care to get you where you want to go is at Columbus Community Hospital, specializing in making a difference.
Wake up in your first home. Wake up in a home you've made a bit bigger. Wake up in a home with a new address. Wake up in a home that doesn't even have an address. As your life evolves, your dream home evolves too, and protecting it takes committed support. At American Family Insurance, we support your dreams.
In Columbus, see American Family agent Roger Iwanski.
Hi, I'm Dee Hansen. I'm the marketing director, and we would like to introduce you to Bank of the Valley.
Community-minded, family-centered, measurable relationships. When it comes to your business, agriculture, and personal banking needs, trust Bank of the Valley.
We're obviously a locally owned bank, but we're also a bank that's very involved.
The most important thing is when you walk in the front door, everybody knows your first name. We are small town banking with all the modern conveniences.
Bank of the Valley in Bellwood, David City, Platte Center, and their brand new location in Columbus.
At Gaver Tire and Auto Center, they do it all. They are the local Tire Pro location, but that's not all. No matter what you drive, they can fix it. Need a lift? They can do that too. For tires, repairs, and accessories, Gaver Tire and Auto Center, located at 704 23rd Street in Columbus.
Heaven's Best Carpet Cleaning.
Heaven's Best Carpet Cleaning stands above the competition with our unique low-moisture cleaning system. Your carpet and upholstery will look great and be dry in 1 hour.
Cleaner carpet and upholstery.
Well, welcome back to the GO Show. We are in our final segment of the show. It goes by quick, I think. I wish we might have to, maybe we can convince somebody to let us make this longer. But I enjoy talking these sports. We get into these things, and it goes by fast. We went to High Plains, and we went to Nebraska. Well, we were at Nebraska Christian last night. We got to see High Plains. We're going to talk about it in a second. Let's talk about Columbus High girls facing off with Norfolk. They're a very good team. They play kind of like a 5-1 team. They're sitting at about 2-3, I believe, is their current record. 2-3. They have the loss to Hastings, but looking at the rest of the season and kind of where they're at this point, they got the double or triple overtime loss, to Elkhorn. They're looking good this year. Do you think they're should stay at the top of that Class B rankings, and where do you think they're going to finish here at the end of the year?
Well, coming in, they were a top 10 preseason team, and you look at their schedule, and between their 2 wins and 3 losses, all of it's been decided by double or single digits or less. So you had the overtime loss against Elkhorn, a 3-point loss, then you have the 3-point win over Beatrice, and then you look at a Class A team like Lincoln Northeast, where they did lose by 8. So they have all the pieces. They have some of the good players coming back. You have McMeekin, Edzards, I believe it's Curry who's coming off the bench as well. Or starts, but those are their 3 big returning starters. So the pieces are definitely in place, and especially you think down the line, these close games that they've had early on in the season, they always say, hey, that can pan out and pay off when you are in these situations, and then you start pulling out more and more wins in those close games.
Yeah, and just kind of going over the schedules here. They do have I think Columbus High girls are probably more of a favorable matchup going into this Norfolk game. Columbus High boys, the underdog, just facing a really good Norfolk team. Doesn't mean they can't win, but it's going to be a tall task. Columbus High girls, though, if the spot-up shooters especially are hitting, they're a tough team to beat. But like you said, they're going to fight. They're going to fight down to the wire. But I think I would say they're a little bit of favorite going to this game. And that one should be fun. That should be on 48.2 as well, so that should be a fun one to watch. Well, let's talk a little High Plains. We're covering High Plains next Tuesday, December 22nd. It's at High Plains, and they're playing, I can't remember off the top of my head who they got.
Shelby
Rising City. So we can get into a little bit of them next week. But if you want to know the basketball schedule, we got cards in the office, what they look like. I don't know if I can show you. Boom, boom, boom. Come check that out and pick one of those up. We got a whole bunch of them. So looking at High Plains, Nebraska Christian girls looked very good. And that was a tough matchup for them. I think obviously Whitney Heerman, I think is the correct pronunciation, but she had, I have 13 points that I had marked down, but she was tough to stop for them. They just had the young sophomore Maddie Young, who I think has a bright future. What are immediate thoughts for you on High Plains going into the Shelby Rising City game?
Well, it was definitely a tough game for High Plains. They had 4 points in the first 2 quarters, which, again, Nebraska Christian played great defense. High Plains, their coach said, admittedly, it's a rebuilding year for them. They have a lot of young players coming in, and all you can do is get the game experience in and see where you are halfway through the season and kind of move on. As for Shelby Rising City, we have not seen them yet, so I'm not entirely sure what they bring to the table till we get back our coaches' notes. But High Plains definitely are going to want to improve, and the thing is, kind of like the season metaphor you talk about in the game against Nebraska Christian, they had a tough first 2 quarters, but they did respond offensively in the second and third. They put up 12 in the third quarter, and then I believe it was 16 in the fourth. So they did have that offensive generation. They just had the slow start that really hurt them, and they don't want to do that again against Shelby Rising City.
Yeah, they kind of kicked it into gear very late, but they did show some potential, and they did show that they had the ability to score. I talked a lot about Maddie Young while we were watching the game, and then I saw the highlights you guys put up. She was on quite a bit of those, but she had a good game, and she's got a bright future. Now she's a little, I would say, rusty around the edges compared to Hewerman, who just looked a little more refined. It wasn't that Hewerman was athletically the better basketball player, but she sometimes that experience, how to get into position. You have this. She shot that hook shot all day. That was just, you can't block, and she was just nailing that thing. So hopefully that should be a good matchup. Hopefully for Rising City, hopefully they can turn things around at High Plains and figure out the offense a little sooner than the fourth quarter like last time. Now looking at the High Plains boys, they lost to Nebraska Christian. Now High Plains, I would definitely say, was the favorite going into that game. And watching that game, I thought High Plains was the better team than Nebraska Christian, but Nebraska Christian played really tough, and that was a nail biter. That was a fun one to watch. But Nebraska Christian, that was one of those situations the underdog kind of found the way to win. I think the big talking point is though Samuel Johnson for High Plains is out. Do you think that turns the tide? I say that could potentially give them 10 more points. You think at least he's averaging 20. So I think High Plains probably comes out with the victory if they have him.
Yeah, I mean, considering it was a 4-point ball game, you would like to account for Samuel Johnson averaging his 20 or at least 15, and you think they probably would have that more handily of a win. Something I was impressed with, though, by High Plains is a lot of their guys stepped up. They had the 6th man off the bench. Let me find his name here. Thomas Young. Yeah, who made a lot of good plays, shot some threes, but it was very evenly dispersed. I mentioned it during our broadcast, the scoring, and as a coach and your Coach Hudson, that's what you want to see your team do is sort of pick up the slack, and it can't just be one guy when you lose a player that's averaging 20 a game, and I believe High Plains did that, and they almost still got the win against a good Nebraska Christian team that's athletic. They're a class above them in C2, and it was just a little bit short, and we don't know the severity of Johnson's sickness, but if he is back, I think it'll be a much more enjoyable result because they are the Class D1 defending state champs, and they brought 3 guys back from that starting team.
Well, and he was sick, so Shelby Rising City's going to have a handful going into this game, and that's not saying we haven't got a chance to watch them, so I don't really have a big background. I'm going to do what Taryn did last time and abstain from my opinions on them, so I'm not 100% sure what the matchup will look like in a full one-on-one aspect, each player to player. But Samuel Johnson would have, I think, been a huge benefit in that last game. And a good point with Thomas Young, though, and Andrew Schuler was another one of those guys. He ended up having 10 points, a couple of those off of free throws. He ended up missing that layup at the end of the game that I think would have tied him at that point. He had kind of a breakaway layup, and then they ended up scoring a couple more baskets on Nebraska Christian's side. So that's tough for him. He had kind of the breakaway, so I feel bad for him. That's never fun. But it'll be interesting to see how he turns around and responds from that going into this next game. Gavin Swanson looked pretty good from behind the 3 too.
Yeah, he had 5 points, so a 2-pointer and a 3-pointer, and he was the man who did fill in for Samuel Johnson for being 5'11", kind of a stockier guy. He did show he could cast the ability a little bit, knock down some of those big 3 balls. Van Houston, also a good player, and Ramirez, they both had 8 to go along with the 10 and 13 by Young and Schuler, so just kind of going off the team mentality and the team aspect, they played very well together.
And how about Dylan Rose at the end of that game? That
Dylan
kid,
Rose, yeah.
He scored those. I think it might have been 8 points from that halfway. From about in 2 minutes, you maybe say, in the last 2 minutes of the game, he put 8 points. It might have even been within the last minute. He just had a couple turnaround jumpers, and that kid, for some reason, not that he's playing bad before, but decided he was going to be the team scorer. I thought that was a fun thing to watch.
Well, yeah, he had 2 points in the first half, and then he ended up having 10, with all 8 of those, like you said, coming in the latter half of the fourth quarter in the crunch time when he was needed most. The other thing that impressed me, not even when he came down 2 or 3 times in a row and got a bucket for his team, but on the defensive end, he got, I think, both rebounds, then ran the court before scoring. So he just, out of nowhere, kind of just decided to go Hulk mode, I guess, if you will, and just like, team's on my back. I'm gonna take us to the promised land, and he did. And he was our Columbus Community Hospital Player of the Game. You got to interview him and get his thoughts.
Yeah, he was excited. He called me sir too, so that's a new experience.
Hey, very proper guy.
Hey, I'm a little bit bigger than him. I got a little bit of a couple years of college football on him. I guess I haven't worn that stuff off yet. So if you want to stay tuned, we got to get off of the TV channel. We're gonna go over to just the audio. So if you want to listen to the rest of this part. We don't got a ton left, but we're going to talk a little Christmas. It's kind of getting Christmas, New Year's Eve. I wanted to fit it in the TV segment, but we just got too much to talk about. So we got to kick it over. Be sure to check out Facebook and Twitter. I'll put those down on the bottom again. It's Columbus City News. Brandon and both of us really, but Brandon when we're doing sports games or sports games. When we're doing games, he's tweeting updates on there. C&T Granada if you want to follow me. If you want a player of the week, I got quite a few lined up, but if you got a suggestion, send it to me on some form of social media, even on Facebook. You can message us on there. And if you want us to talk about something, message us on Facebook as well. But it's the Geo Show. Thanks again for tuning in. It's episode 16 already.
Feels good.
It's like 18 weeks of doing this stuff. It does feel good. Thanks again for tuning in. Stay tuned for the replay. It's going to be back on this weekend update. But the Geo Show here on News Channel Nebraska Columbus News Team.